Rich, Kathy, you guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
All right. Great to be here in your house, your amazing house. This is legit. Seriously, I've heard stories for years. Like friends will come here and just be like, you've got to check this place out. So
Awesome.
I commandeered it tonight for a charity dinner, and you guys were kind enough to host it. So thank you.
Well, this
Absolutely.
is a treat for me because when we built this, it felt like too big a house for us. And I remember thinking, yeah, but I'm going to have charity events here.
Yeah.
And this is the first one.
Yeah, we sold what 30 tickets, roughly 35, something like that, tickets for $1,000 a pop. That's
Awesome.
100%. And it wasn't even like profits go to charity. It's just they had to just literally donate directly to the Tim Tebow Foundation for the fight against human trafficking. So we raised at least 35,000
me so
tonight.
happy.
Yeah, just for dinner. And and we're gonna have a great night too.
We
so.
are.
Great purpose.
Yeah, so thank you guys for that. Let's get
yeah.
into your guys' story a little bit. So I'll give a quick summary. I don't know everything about you. Real estate investors, business owners. You've been through a lot of stuff. You did a mullet bench press at one point.
Yes.
Kathy, you did TV news stuff.
Yeah, I
back
was in the
day?
news. I graduated in broadcasting in San Francisco.
Oh, I
and
did not know that.
Worked in the news until we got married, and I didn't want to really chase fires or murderers anymore.
Yeah, and I
Wanted to chase
understand that.
kids.
Chase kids. That sounded better.
All right, so let's go back though. Before all, super successful, amazing house, awesome place in Malibu. Where'd you guys meet? Like, how'd you guys get together? Where does your life come together?
Well, you were sleeping on the floor of your gym.
Of mine, yeah. So I sold my gym that I started when I was 23 back in Boston, and then drove cross country in '95 and came out to the Bay Area and met Kathy in a personal development seminar.
Oh, really?
I was a single mom with living with two roommates in a house in Oakland, and my assistant at the time, I had a small business, and she's like, you should do this thing. It'll be good for business, because she knew I wouldn't go for personal. But at that time, my personal life was just a complete mess. I barely talked to my ex-husband. We would just pass the baby back and forth. I was a workaholic, didn't really do much more than that. Didn't spend enough time with my child the way I wanted to. So then she got me to this personal growth workshop because I thought I'd make more money.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's 3 months. You set 3 goals, 2 personal goals, 1 professional, or the different mix, 2 professional, 1 personal. And I saw Kathy and I said, I know what one of my goals is going to be. And it worked.
That's awesome. Do you remember the line you used when you first talked to her? Was this like, hey, or did you have a pickup line?
Actually, it wasn't a line. It sure sounded
It
like
felt
one.
like a line.
I got introduced to her and I looked at her and I said, I think I've met you before. And it was the only time I've ever felt that with a woman. And just, it was wild. I really felt that I was trying to place where it was and everything, but I don't know, must have been destiny.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. There's certain things in life where when you encounter it, there is that kind of deja vu feeling. And I'm not necessarily, I'm not a believer in like the, necessarily reincarnation or that I had a past life necessarily, but there is this feeling of like when I found my house, I was like, I owned this house before. Like there was no question. I was like, I've been here.
Nice.
I know this house, right? And when I met Heather, like when I saw her from my college window out on the lawn, I was like, I'm gonna marry that girl. Like I just knew it. Like, and I walked down there and I was like, this is the girl I'm gonna marry. And I said, like, verbally said it out loud. I'm gonna marry this girl, and then I did, right? Because I was like, in my head, I'd already done it. So I don't know where that comes from, but
I don't know, but Kathy's had a lot of those experiences.
Yeah.
This house
Yeah.
itself, yeah.
All of our houses,
Yeah.
I saw them first.
yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, doing like future self or something like
Yeah.
that. You can see it, and then, then it becomes
As
reality.
clear as could be. And then I'd pull up and be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, and that's that power of like visualization, future self. Can we? I mean, I wanted to bring that up later, but now we're covering it. You walked me through a process one time, Rich, of that future self. Can you talk about what is that? What is that idea? What is that practice? We don't have to do it on the show, but like,
yeah, it's a guided visualization. I actually started doing it way back in college because I would record my classes. I'm so ADD, I couldn't pay attention in class, so I'd record them on a little micro cassette. And then one day I was bored studying at home, and I flipped the cassette over and I said, a day in the life of Rich Fedke, and I just went into this whole thing. And then when I got into coach training in '96, they had a similar process where you could actually do this visualization and guide someone to meet their future self. So it's basically that. It's facilitating that and having someone meet their future self 10 years, 20 years in the future, and really get to see, who is this person? Who do I become? Who do I want to become? And you just tap it into that part of the brain, that the creative spot, the imagination spot of just like really on a deep level, who is it that you really want to become, and what do you see? And I don't know, something happens in it where you really tap in and you see some things that are pretty cool. Unless for some people, it's like I've guided people through it and they're like, ooh, they'd open their eyes and they say, I don't like that person.
Yeah.
And it was because the choices they were making in their life was going to take them to a future where they didn't want to be.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is you can shift that and you can change it and make different choices and end up, having a better future self.
Yeah, somebody in the mastermind when we did that, I can't remember who it was, and I wouldn't call them out anyway right now, but they said basically I wasn't there. Like I was like the choices I'm making in life were leading towards a bad spot where maybe I wasn't like I'm not going to make it there to the future self, and it rocked them. They're like, oh, I got to make some different changes.
Oh my gosh!
Right? Isn't that wild?
That's
like,
powerful.
yeah, and it's like I don't know what that is, but just the idea of visualization. So what else in that world have you guys done? I mean, like what are those cut out magazine pictures and put them on a thing like a vision board? Have you guys done that? Are you vision board people?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
We've done a lot of that with our friends, with our daughters.
Yeah.
I mean, this house was kind of on our vision board 25 years ago.
Yeah.
When we met, we again, he was sleeping on the floor of his gym. I had roommates on each side, single mom, struggling to get by every day. But when we did the dream board, we just cut out pictures of things. Don't overthink it. Just stuff that we like.
Yeah.
And of course, we liked houses on hills overlooking ocean.
Yeah.
An ocean, and not stopping to think, well, how are we going to do that? Just like I like this, and then you put it on the wall, and your subconscious is so powerful.
Yeah.
If you don't think you can have something, then your subconscious isn't going to try to help you to create that. But if you just get yourself out of the way, and you don't even have to be like, I want this or I don't want this, just allow it, just allowing that picture to be on my wall, like, oh, maybe someday I could have this, was enough.
And it's almost like that quote, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Yeah.
So it's almost like going there.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, if I couldn't fail, this is what I would do. This is what I would have. This is what I would be like. Yeah. And it's like, it's mind expanding.
Yeah, it really
I'm
is.
not there yet because I would be surfing hurricane, like, big waves.
You can bring that in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I every year it gets a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's something to that too. Is like even if I won't, like I might put on there, I want a picture of a guy surfing a giant 40-foot wave. I'm not gonna do that, but I want to be more like that guy. Like I want to be more fearless, right? So sometimes it's okay to put, I think, the aspirational stuff.
Yeah.
There's people I follow online. I'm a big believer in following people on social media that you don't necessarily want to be like, but they're the extreme version of who you want to be like. Because like I don't need to be like them, but I need to be a little more like them.
Yeah.
Like I don't like everything they do, but I want to be a little more like that. You could look at that like politically or spiritually or whatever. I'm like, I would not want to be that guy, but I like that he does that, and by following that, I start picking up on some of their vibes and start going that way.
I really love that because so many people look at it differently. They look at people like that. They're successful, what we were talking about earlier, and they'll make an instant judgment on that person.
Yeah,
and they'll be like, they're not a good person or they're greedy or whatever it is. It's like, so I love that. It's because then you're turning that instead of envy, you're looking at the inspiration out of it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I did a vision board back, call it 10 years ago now, my wife and I, and we literally just took magazines. I think it was at maybe a mastermind of some kind. We just took magazines, a big pile of them, cut out pictures, put them on the thing. And we didn't focus that much on it. We had it sitting on the wall for a few months, maybe a year, put it away. And then I'm like, didn't really look at it for a long time. And then, I found a picture recently where I took of it. We'd thrown it away when we moved to Hawaii. But I found a picture recently and I was just like, my jaw dropped at how many things had come true. I mean, even there's like a picture of my backyard garden. And it was like, that's my backyard garden. I had no memory of it being on that vision board.
And how long ago was the vision
board? So
board?
I made the vision board like 10 years ago.
10 years
and then
ago,
3 years ago, we built the garden.
Nice.
And I hadn't looked at it for years before that, but there it was. And it said like a house with a view, and like my house has a view. And it was had a picture of like my wife, but just, it said like, there's always time for pie. And it was like, now we have on our wall, and again, it was like there's a giant sign in our kitchen just says pie, like one of those big cutout letters thing. And she loves making pie. So it's just like, it was fun, but it also shows like, you've made it real. And it is a simple practice that especially like couples, I love doing it with my wife, because it was like, this is a cool thing for us to conversate about. Is conversate a word? Or to make a
I
one?
think it is actually.
I don't know.
Maybe?
Converse?
No, I think it is. I thought it wasn't, but then I looked it up because I was going to use it, and I'm like, is it a word?
Conversate. All right, you can couples
Now
can.
it is.
Now it
It is now. Conversate about convert. Yeah, now I looked it up. Alex is saying no, it's not a word. I don't know.
Look it up.
Here, watch this. Is conversate a word?
I found this on the web.
Conversate is a non-standard verb that means to have a conversation.
There we go.
The standard verb is the one that you should use if you want to be correct is converse.
Converse.
So conversate is an informal dinosaur, but we're all right. I guess that's what we're going with. It's the moral of the story. Anyway, so it's a great practice again to do. Let's dive into that. What are other things you guys do as a married couple to stay aligned on your vision, on your goals, on your business, things like that?
Every year we get together as a family with the kids and just review the year before. What were the highlights? What were the personal things that we improved in our lives? The theme of the year. Rich leads us through this, but we review, because so often you'll go through life and not really look back at how far you've come, or what you really gained, or what wasn't working, and then be able to take that into the next year by looking at that and saying, oh, I want to do more of this. I was more confident last year. I want to even be more confident, and it would look like this. Or the theme of this year, I want to be more freedom, or being more present with my kids, or whatever it is, and doing that as a family, and then also having our whole family be involved in that vision, but also in the house rules.
Yeah.
Because I know that sounds weird. We don't have little kids anymore, but they're grown-up kids and they're
Little
awesome. Like they turned
grandchild.
out, and we're so close to them, and to me that is the greatest wealth. Take the house away. Don't take it. But
But if you did,
like all that matters is that they're healthy, that we have a good relationship, and a lot of it was getting together as a family and determining, how do we want our family to be? How do you girls want to be? Tell me what you see a year from now, after 7th grade, after 8th grade, 9th grade. What are we celebrating? And they would determine the house rules, and then they would come to us when they broke them. So we hardly had to discipline.
Yeah, they would say, what should we do for discipline?
oh,
We would let them
And they would usually
up
come up with something worse than we would. And we're like, well, that's kind of harsh.
they would cry and I just 2 weeks grounded. Like, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That's really funny. Yeah, I would love to dig out on more parenting stuff, but I want to take a quick side detour because one thing I always try to do towards the beginning of the show is we have a sponsor of each show. But one thing unique that we do on the show is every guest gets to pick where all the ad revenue from that episode goes. So any ad revenue we generate it goes towards a charity of your choosing. So
Incredible.
what breaks your guys' heart? I mean, what do you want to support, whether it's actually charity or just a cause that you both care about? What do you guys feel there?
It's so cool that you asked that. I jumped in because I knew Rich was going to say some organizations that we already donate to.
Yeah.
But the one that I really would like to funnel some money to is an orphanage that our youngest daughter, found on her trip in Asia. She went to Cambodia, and Cambodia is one of the poorest countries in the world. And during the pandemic, the orphanages weren't getting any more funding, and she went and worked at one, fell in love with these children, and the owner said, I'm going to have to send them back on the street.
Wow.
He's like, we can't continue funding it. So she started doing fundraisers to keep the doors open, but it would sure be nice to send them a little bit more money, because they had to stop the school that they had. They were taking in all the kids and teaching them. So to me, it would be helping Krista.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, she's got such a big heart, and these kids just loved her. The photos of them all just mobbed around her and all that stuff.
Couldn't speak the same language at all, but it didn't matter. They were playing games, and
Yeah.
they just love her.
Yeah, and they're truly kids who, life has been hard for them without parents and all that. It's like, they're doing their best.
Yeah, really good. We'll put a link to the actual, the place, so people can also donate. But then we'll donate all the revenue from this to that. That's good.
That's wonderful.
So with that, cue the ad. All right, so let's go back to parenting stuff, because you guys have what's your kid?
Daughters.
2 daughters. All right, and they
3-year-old grandson.
Okay,
Yeah.
and they seem great. Like, I've heard
They are
amazing
so
stories. You guys
great.
talk. So, as somebody, I ask this every guest because this is near and dear to my heart, and a lot of our listeners are also people with young kids. As somebody with younger kids, what advice do you have for me? I got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. Like, we're in it right now.
Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, number one is complete openness. Like, you can tell me anything, and I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to judge you. I want to hear it. I want to learn. And to this day, our daughters have been completely open. They tell me more than sometimes I want to know or I'm ready for. But it's been, I would say that's the biggest thing, is that complete openness of no judgment. Because, our daughters would come home from school and say, my friend doesn't tell her parents any of this stuff, and she's doing all this stuff, behind the scenes, you know, whatever it is, drinking or partying or, you know, early sex or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and we were so open that, you know, our daughters tell us everything.
Yeah.
Well, and those kids would come over because they wanted advice, but they couldn't go to their parents because it wouldn't be a safe place for them.
That was huge.
So you know, my daughter would have sleepovers with 7 or 8 girls, and we'd sit in a circle, and they just wanted advice.
It was like Kathy time. Yeah, it was
Wow.
really sweet. Yeah,
It was
Kathy
really
would be in
sweet.
bed with all of them there. I mean, this
Yeah.
big circle. And,
Oh, that's so
yeah.
beautiful.
And like these girls were so young, and you know, they would say, "Well, this boy wants me to do this thing, and if I do it, then I'll be his girlfriend." And I was like, "Huh? Do you want to do that thing? No. Well, why don't you, you know, just wait and see if you'll be his girlfriend first, and then you can consider that." So she's like, "Oh, okay, I'll ask him." Next day, she's like, "Nope, he doesn't want."
Yeah.
I go, "Okay, well, you got your answer."
Yeah.
So, you know, they just need someone to talk to.
Yeah, you know, growing up, I never, like, I have 3 siblings, me and 3 siblings. We never once ever talked about crushes or like girls we liked or, you know, a guy that my sister liked. Never had that conversation. We never had those with my parents, and I don't know why. I sometimes, you know, speculate, is it because like as a kid they teased us like in like, you know, lightly, you know, like, "Oh, you got a girlfriend," you know, like when you're
That's all it
5,
takes,
right?
one little comment.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Brandon's got a girlfriend," like with the little kid at daycare. Did that cut that? I bet it did. So I'm like, one thing I'm trying to do is being very careful with Rosie and Wilder to like never tease them about a boy or girl, because I want them coming to me, because I never came to my parents with any of it. I mean,
I think
nothing
that's
until
it. No matter what they tell you.
Yeah.
No matter what they say. It's just like, "Oh, tell me more." You ask questions. And yeah, I think that's big.
And I think another thing is to just understand that children need attention so badly. There are studies that show that if a baby has all the things it physically needs, food, warmth, but doesn't have attention and touch and love, they can die.
Yeah.
Even if they have all the physical needs. So your kids are going to do whatever it takes to get attention.
Yeah.
And if that means being bad, and that's the only way they can get your attention, they're going to be extra bad. So what we have to learn as parents is to give them the good, positive reinforcement attention. Rich would take each of our daughters, well, we both would, on mommy or daddy daughter dates. Just one kid, one parent, go away for the weekend and have incredible one-on-one time where you're completely devoted to them. There's nothing else distracting you. And that is like food. That's food for a wife too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
her
yeah,
husband,
yeah.
I'm sure that's one of the big things Rich has learned is that I just need attention.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And going places where there's no cell signal is really good.
Yeah.
You know, we go to Joshua Tree and camp out under the stars and have these great conversations, and there's no desire to.
There's no ability to
Yeah,
get
no
on the
ability.
phone. Yeah, and I would do the same. I would just get in the car and I'd be like, "Hey, we'll go wherever the car takes us."
Yeah.
And we end up in some cool place. Once it was Yosemite.
Oh, that's
so,
cool.
But yeah, just being very conscious of the kind of attention you're giving your child. Is it a constant discipline? Is it a constant telling you what to do? Or is it at least combined with positive stuff like, "Hey, let's play this game," or "Tell me about your day," and really listen. You know.
Yeah, that's really good. What about like the transfer of knowledge of wealth? I mean, you guys teach wealth. Like, you guys are some of the best on the planet for like showing people how to build wealth, and you help people through your business. We can get into that in a little bit, but what about your kids? Like, how much did you push that? How much did you push the idea of real estate or business? And how much did you just let them figure it out on their own?
I mean, I could say with our older daughter, we didn't have wealth, so it was it was a little bit challenging because we lived in a wealthy neighborhood, and her friends had nice things that, you know, she wanted too. But when she was very little, when you have little ones and you take them into the store, they want everything, right? Yeah. So we learned early on that, you know, don't say no. No, it makes them want it more. But just like, sure, how could you have that? Let me show you how you could have that. Let's look at this. This is how much this costs, and really help them understand. And then we would give them money. It would be like, here's $1. You get to spend this $1, and help them understand the value of it and how far it could go. Remember Disneyland?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's perfect. And so I would say it's not so much lessons in wealth; it was lessons in entrepreneurship. So it's how to be entrepreneurial, how to think different, how to not. We never tried to support the thing of just getting a job to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
So, and you know, our daughters are very entrepreneurial. It's really cool to see it, how
That's
it plays out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Disneyland, you have all intentions of having a good time, but then you bring your kids there and you're like, well, this isn't fun at all.
Yeah.
They want everything, right?
Yeah.
So we would, again, when they're little, it's harder, but they can grasp it a little bit. With Karina, she had to have been, I don't know, 6 or 7 at the time when we went to Disneyland, and we really literally had no money, so it wasn't like we were just being mean. It was just like, I'm sorry, you're
rules.
lucky you have a ticket, right?
Yeah.
So. It was like we were able to, I think maybe even a grandparent gave $50. So it was like, honey, this $50 has got to last you 3 days at Disneyland. And within an hour, she found a Barbie she wanted, and it was $50. And it's like, honey, this is all you're going to get. And she was like, that's fine. She throws it there and it breaks.
Oh, no.
It was whipping it up in the air and
She was
catching
so
it.
happy.
She caught it great until she didn't.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But she understood. Like, now I can't really ask for anything else. I spent it.
Yeah.
We
went to Disney World last year with Rosie. She was 5. Because she didn't understand money enough. Yeah, today she might actually understand dollars a little more, but she didn't understand it. So we instead would give her like 3 coins, and we were just like, those like little, like you make a penny out of the little crank thing.
Yeah.
So we give her like 3 of those, and we're like, this is all you get for the day, and each one will buy you one special small thing. And so a small thing could be an ice cream cone, or it could be a little tiny toy, something like because really every one of those is like $20 anyway. But like we're like, you get 3 little things a day, and so she had to learn how to budget it. Like if she wanted ice cream, if she wanted a snow cone, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And it was fun to watch her brain try to work that through, because she wasn't used to that, where she got to make the decision. And so, that's something I'm going to try to implement more and more of. Like, in fact, we're going to start, I never wanted to give her an allowance, but now we're going to start doing these are chores that you can earn money. Like, these are free ones and these are paid ones. And starting even at now, she's 6, almost 7. Yeah. Just trying to learn, how to balance between wanting to earn more and then not have to work too much and play more. And I think it's
I love that.
powerful.
You posted something a while ago, it must have been a year ago, something about paying your kid to finish a book.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I'm like, if I could go back, I definitely would have done that with our kids.
Yeah.
To be like,
I will pay my kid to read Rich Dad Poor Dad for sure.
Yeah.
Like write a book report on Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Exactly.
Yeah,
to
something
really
like that.
Internalize it.
Yeah.
I think that's
like
really valuable.
Yeah, they need to have that mindset shift. They're not gonna read it anyway. Like for a while until you pay them, and then maybe they will. I think Patrick Bet-David said something about that too recently, where like that was their allowance, was like every book they read, they got a little bit of money.
I think it's really smart.
Yeah.
And one other thing I thought was really cool, because Krista tells us this, when we moved to Malibu, suddenly she was with the wealthiest people in the world. And the first day she came home, she's like, Mom, how many houses do we have? And I'm like, well, I mean, are you trying to compare with your friends here in Malibu, like how many houses they have? And she's like, yeah, because I want to go. I told them we have 14. I was like, did you tell them they were like $50,000 houses in Ohio? She's like, no. And we just sat her down. We go, honey, you're never going to win this game in Malibu. You are never going to be the richest girl here. And you're never going to be able to impress these kids with the clothes that you wear and the places you go and the houses you have and blah, blah, blah. That's not going to happen. But you can develop other things that will be really impressive, like your sense of humor, your athleticism, your kindness, how much you can raise for charities, because actually Malibu High has a huge charitable program, and just how you could be the best person you can be. That's how you'll win that game. But you're not going to win it by having better shoes.
Yeah, because you can't win it. Like there's
You're
always
not-
somebody
never,
better.
you never win it. Yeah. So I remember some of those lessons. It was, it's like what gets acknowledged gets repeated, right? So we would often look and always look for, what's that character that is standing out right now, and acknowledging that, like you're such a giver, or you're so creative, or whatever. Yeah, I think that was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best pieces of parenting advice I ever got, and he wasn't even giving me advice, but he was talking about his kids when he's got 2 young boys, and every time he'd go to parent-teacher conferences, the teacher would want to lay into like, this is what he's doing in science, this is what he's struggling in reading here, like about the kids, and he'd always be like, nah, I don't care. How's their character? Like, tell me about their character in school. Like, are they kind?
so
Are they loving? He's like, that's the only thing I care about. And that stuck with me. I mean, it's probably 10 years ago I heard that before I had kids. It's always stuck with me, is like, what's their character? Because that's going to develop. Their grit strong. Like, those are things we want to acknowledge and reward and lean into. I don't care if they can't read at 6, they'll read at 7. Like, it doesn't really bother me.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of wealth, You wrote a book, Rich, on wealth. It's called The Wise Investor, a modern parable about creating financial freedom and living your best life. And I'm actually on the back cover because I read it and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, you were one of the first readers,
Yeah.
a beta reader for feedback. So.
Yeah, and I'm right below Robert Kiyosaki, which is a good place to be.
Two legends.
I love it. Tell me about the book. Tell me why you wrote it. Who's it for? What's it about?
I had written a couple nonfiction books, and I read a stat about nonfiction books that it's like 86% of people do not finish them.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't want to write another book like that. Yeah. So, and people finish stories. So I wanted to write a compelling story that would pull people in and teach lessons at the same time. So that's why I went with the parable. And the lessons are all everything that we've learned from the last 25 years running our company, interviewing people about how do they create wealth in their lives and how do they live with what we call real wealth, which is more than just money. It's like, the whole thing to living a better life.
Yeah.
That's what real wealth really is. So I just wanted to weave all those together in a story that was going to be compelling, that people wanted to, turn the pages and finish the book.
Yeah,
so
that's really good.
basically it tells that story of a kind of a struggling 40-something family man who has no time for his kids or his wife or his life.
It's a common tale.
Then he meets a wise mentor who shows him a new way to create wealth.
Yeah. Well, what is? I mean, you said real wealth is more than money. How would you define real wealth?
Yeah. Why don't you define real wealth?
Well, we've always defined it as well. Let me start with having lived in high net worth areas. Our kids would tell us what it was really like in some of those homes. In fact, almost all of the homes where the kids wouldn't talk to their parents, and they couldn't even find their parents. Their houses were so big, and they were
They yell
raised
at each other.
by nannies, and their mother never cooked for them. And our little tiny place was always full of kids, and I would make them food, and they just thought that was amazing, that the mother would be feeding them. I forgot the question.
Yeah, real wealth.
How do you define real wealth? Huh?
So, wealth is not that. It's not a big empty house with unhappy children. That's not wealth. Wealth, we've had people come to Real Wealth who all they wanted was, maybe this one guy just wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
He just wanted to spend his day doing art. And so when we sat with him, it's like, well, what are your expenses? What's it going to take for you to do that? It was like $2,500 a month. Was all he needed to live his dream. So it's not about the money. It's about how much time can you free up to live life the way that you want. To me, that's what real wealth is. And he considered himself financially free immediately. He was able to get the right assets that would give him enough passive income to be able to create art all day.
Yeah.
To be job optional.
Yeah, that's cool.
And for me, it was the reason we call our company Real Wealth was the reason it was formed was I was diagnosed with cancer, and they told me I had 6 months to live. They thought melanoma had spread to my liver. Thankfully, they were wrong. It was a false positive, they call it, a false diagnosis. But I went for 3 months not knowing if I was going to be alive for 6 months. We had a 10-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old daughter. So it really rocked our world. And that was the impetus for Kathy to say, what am I going to do here if Rich dies?
Yeah.
So she sought out mentors and found out about real estate investing and said, this is what I can do. So that was kind of the birth of our company, Real Wealth. And so we wove that into the fabric of the company. It's not just about making money. It's having the time to be able to be with your kids, to be with your family. When you have enough money, you don't come from a place of scarcity.
Yeah.
You come from a place of abundance, and you're a better parent. You're a better human. I think that's really big. Yeah. So it was like purpose driven. So that's what we're about. We're helping people.
I love that. I
creating
love it.
real wealth.
Well, I want to dig into how you built that all, but before I can't leave that situation of thinking you might die, right? What was going through your head? I mean, were you mad at the world, angry at God, that whole thing, or were you
was part of
accepting it? Where were you at?
It was painful. It was I remember leaving the doctor's office after I met with an oncologist, and he looked down at his file and he goes, "Yeah, it looks like it's spread to your liver." And I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "You probably have 6 months to live." And I left his office, and I remember driving along, and this wave came over me, and I just started punching my steering wheel with tears, screaming. I can't say what I said there, but it started with anger. Yeah, anger, and I don't believe this. And I came home and walked in to the kitchen. I had tears in my eyes, and Kathy's just like, what's the matter? Usually I only cry if I'm happy, and so it was a lot of fear. then I started to just go into the belief of, like, most of the time I was like, I'm gonna get over this. I'm gonna, take that. I'm gonna fight this, and we're gonna win and everything.
Yeah.
But then I would still have that little voice that would be like, but you're not gonna see your daughter grow up. You're not gonna, your daughters, you're not gonna see your daughters get married. You're not gonna see your grandkids, all that stuff. So then that would hit home. So yeah, it was pretty painful.
Yeah, we have a friend who's, he calls himself a healer, and I just thought, let's just have a session with Rich. And, he sat with Rich, and this is stuff actually that Rich was teaching that he forgot for a moment. And this guy reminded him, and he just looks at Rich and he goes, how much of you believes that you're going to live? And what'd you say?
I said, 70% of the time I feel I'm going to make this, I'm going to get through it, but 30% of the time I think I'm going to die.
And he goes, that 30% is killing you.
Oh.
Yeah.
He said it in such, not like that,
Yeah.
but a very powerful, powerful voice. It was booming, and it was just like, he knows that. It's
Yeah.
like, you got to be 100%
He
in.
said, from this point forward, whenever that little voice comes in and says you're going to die, you say, nope, I'm 100%, I'm going to be well, this is going to be fine. And it was amazing. It was like the energy of that 30% thinking I was going to die was actually destroying me.
Yeah.
And it was pulling me down. And whenever that would come up after that talk with Greg, I was just like, no, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good. And it just shifted my energy. It had me be more present with my family. I wasn't woe is me. And yeah, and then I got the great news after a PET scan. I had to wait. I did an ultrasound, a CT scan, and eventually a PET scan, which is the most advanced scan for cancer. And it came back and said you're cancer free. So they think it's just clusters of blood vessels that showed up on the ultrasound and CT scan.
As far as the metastasis.
Yeah.
Like
Right, yeah.
They cut out the rest of
Yeah.
the
Yeah, the melanoma they removed from my skin, but
Yeah.
they had thought it had spread to my liver. So,
How'd you celebrate that?
oh man, I was actually at a Christian retreat with Kathy's dad and brothers and everything, and I didn't grow up Christian. I was just like, I'm gonna try this. So I was there. We were doing prayers and everything, and we were actually all in a room together. And my phone rang, and I said, "Excuse me, guys, I got to step outside." And I got the news. So I was just like, whoa, this is pretty cool. Yeah. So we just celebrated. I called my mom first because she was the most freaked.
Yeah.
So I called her and just let her know. And then I called Kathy and celebrated with tears. And I'm just happy. Yeah.
Well, there's a passage somewhere in the Bible. I don't even know what book it's in, where I think it's Jesus saying, when you ask for something, ask with 100% confidence. Is basically saying the same exact
thing.
So
Wow.
this is this goes back thousands of years of don't doubt, you expect it, receive it, this is
That's faith,
ask.
right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
faith. It's I'm going to, and it doesn't always
That's
work out
faith.
that way, but there's something magical, mystical, spiritual, whatever about that unwavering faith. It says, no, this I am going to be okay, 100% okay.
Especially when your whole self is aligned with that.
Yeah.
Greg said he saw it leave. He said it left because there was no room for it anymore.
Yeah.
He had made
Goosebumps.
that shift.
Yeah.
And I, at the same time, was having that with money because I somehow wasn't worried. I'm like, look at him, he jumps off bridges and he's surfing hurricane waves and jumping off rocks. I mean, I'm like, no way is a freckle going to take it. To take him away from me. I just didn't believe it at all.
Yeah.
And I refused to let myself go there. But I also knew that he needed space, and he had been the breadwinner. I'd been the stay-at-home mom. And I remember sitting with our friends, and it was New Year's Eve, and we were all toasting, and I had that same 100% moment of going from complete doubt, what do I know about money? And how we had just bought a house that was $4,000 a month. Now, that's probably $12,000 a month today, and it was nothing I could
It was
pay.
our first house.
It was our first house. It was just I don't know how to do this. And all that doubt was eating me up too, of how am I going to take care of my family during this time? And I don't want to be working a full-time job away from him, if the doctor was right, which I didn't believe he was right. But I remember same thing. We toasted, and I had that same 100%, I'm going to figure this out, and I will be wealthy.
Yeah.
There was zero doubt. I got this. And same thing, shivers down my body, no room for doubt. And every now and then, I feel like I'm an eagle. I feel like I'm a human bird, just going, don't look down.
Yep.
Just don't look down. Just don't look back. You got this.
Yeah,
you know?
that's so good. You know, one of my performance coach, Jason Dries, has this thing, and I'll probably butcher it, but he basically says most people in the world, they ask how to do something, and then they decide, and then they commit to doing it if they're going to. Once they've figured out the how, and they're like, all right, am I going to do that? Yes, I'll do it. Now I'm committed. He says just like to reverse that, like
Yes.
commit first. Like I'm going to do it.
That's
Yeah.
what you did.
Yeah, that. I'm like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna be
gonna do
wealthy.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because now all of a sudden you're operating from a frame or a framework that says I'm going to I'm already doing it. Like I'm committed to it. I've decided. Okay, now I'm gonna figure out how. Like yeah, and if you start from that, like is it possible? I'm not really sure. I want to be wealthy. Like that's cool. Yeah, you're never gonna do it.
Yeah.
And everything aligns with
Yeah.
that vision
Yes.
when you're 100%.
Yeah, because I think it changes your identity a little bit. Like I'm a wealthy person. I just haven't got the money yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
I think it changes your energy, which
Yeah.
it changes who you're attracted to and who's attracted to you, the people that you meet. Everything changes.
Yeah.
I do believe we attract similar energy.
Yeah.
So if we're doubtful or unsure, we're going to probably attract doubtful people or doubtful situations. You
That's
know?
so true.
Yeah.
And and it shifted. So it was like that curse turned into a blessing.
Yeah.
The curse of that is what got Kathy to be like, what am I going to do?
Yep.
That turned us on to real estate investing. We started to invest. But the real wealth that we made was when we started to serve others to help them create
Yeah.
wealth. And we started to help people get into investment properties and teach them
Yeah.
financial intelligence and all that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What is Real Wealth Network? How does that let's talk about that journey and what do you guys do and how do you help people and how do you make money yourself doing it?
Sure. There's different parts of it. I mean, we started, this is 20 years ago
Yeah.
when there was still
25.
25 years ago. Yeah, when we were doing that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So there was so many of these real estate clubs with the back of the room sales gurus
yeah.
and everything. And so we decided that back then to be the anti-guru.
Yeah.
And just all
You
our
were doing that before Bigger Pockets made it cool.
Everything's
I love
free.
it.
Our live events are
Yeah.
free. Webinars are free. But the way we monetize it is we would refer people to property teams and brokers around the country so
Yeah.
they could acquire rental properties, 1 to 4 units mostly. And so I'm a broker, so we get a broker-to-broker referral fee, just like
Yep.
any real estate transaction. So we started to do that. That was the beginning of the business, and we still do that today. We help a lot of people get into single families. And then we started to syndicate in 2010. You might as well, why don't you...
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of it all, it was kind of my desperate attempt to understand wealth,
Yeah.
right? And I had a background in broadcasting. I'd been in working in newsrooms before I became a stay-at-home mom, but I still wanted to be plugged into that world, so I still had a weekend radio show. And I don't think it was very good. I don't think I had a very good audience. I would take like a headline news story and just ramble about it. But then I was like, okay, for this mission, I am now going to discover what I don't know about wealth, what other people, I didn't know anyone who was wealthy.
Yeah.
I didn't know how that world worked. So I just started interviewing people who were creating wealth. So it started somewhat selfishly, like I want to learn this. And then all of a sudden, our phones were ringing. Like there was this whole audience who also wanted to learn it.
Yeah.
So in those early days, it was just really cool because we were learning together. I would bring in a guest. I'd be like, what? I didn't know you could finance. But back then it was like, no money down, unlimited investment properties. Yes, please. So there was, you could fix your credit. I didn't know that. Wait, you can get asset protection? Amazing. Wait, someone pays off your debt for you? How can this be? Just like every single day, the feeling, just being mind blown.
Yep.
And as I was mind blown, so was our audience, and it just kept growing that way.
Yeah. And then syndications?
Well, and then with syndications, so the show grew, right around whenever podcasts came out at 2005,
2005.
something like that.
Yeah.
I was doing the radio show, and Rich had his little iPod, and I always thought, like, what do you need that for? You can listen to music on a CD, right?
Yeah.
But he loved his iPod, and I was so mad because it was like $300, right?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. Who needs this?
Who needs this? But it ended up that he got a little message on his iPod, and it said, podcast. It was this new thing, and you could upload your shows. So he's like, oh, let's try it. So he'd upload my radio show, commercials and all, right straight from the radio.
The CD, yeah.
Yeah. And those are the first complaints I had, is like, why don't you edit out the commercials?
Because I didn't know how.
But suddenly overnight, because Rich did that, I had listeners worldwide. And so then right around 2009, when U.S. real estate was at the lowest, right?
Yeah.
Values had just tanked. A listener from Australia heard my podcast and called and said, our Aussie dollar has doubled in strength, and the U.S. dollar had gone down, and U.S. real estate was, in some cases, down 75%.
Yeah.
So Aussies could come in and get stuff for like 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
So they flew us out the next month. Next thing I know, we were standing and speaking in front of a room with 1,000 Australians begging to take their money. They're like, just to take our money and buy us stuff. And we're like, I don't think that's how it works. So then we ended up, then at the same time, a developer had been listening to the podcast. It all came from the podcast. And he said, I'm going into banks and we're finding stuff for 10 cents on the dollar. Can you raise money? I'm like, I got Australians throwing money at me.
Yeah.
Yes. So we hired an attorney, figured out the SEC thing. I was one of the first to be doing it, and just started buying up land and developments that were 70% complete, but the bank just failed. That's sort of a theme these days.
Yeah.
And the construction loans that the builders were depending on were suddenly not there. It was crazy times, but those all went to the FDIC, and we were able to pick them up for so cheap.
Yeah.
So that's when we started syndicating. Learned a lot of hard lessons.
Yeah.
Made huge returns. Made no returns. I mean, it was the wild, wild west. But being out the gate first, sometimes you're the one who gets to learn the hard way.
Yep.
I'm here to teach people how not to do it the hard way now.
Right. Yeah. Lessons learned. So that's basically what we do at Real Wealth. Yeah. We help people get into investment properties and also the syndication things. And then just this year, we just started to do everyone's been asking us for masterminds for years, just because our coaching background and everything. So this year we finally have done 2 masterminds.
Oh, that's cool.
Really fun. It's just amazing to see people just grow. I was always such a one-on-one coach. And even when Kathy said, we should do a mastermind here and we've got the perfect space for it, I was like, I don't know, I'm one-on-one coach, but it was like, it felt like one-on-one coaching, because you just connect to that one person in each conversation.
It's so fun to see people just transform before your very eyes. I had one woman I have a women's syndication mastermind, because there's so many syndication masterminds for men. Yeah. And it's just a different vibe, right? I mean, it was a group of women, so we could just cry a lot. We did. But one just, for whatever reason, she didn't feel worthy of telling her story. And she's like, I turn down podcasts all the time. What do I have to say? I'm like, what do you mean, what do you have to say? By the end, she was so transformed. She ends up sending us, look, I'm on this podcast, I'm on this. They
cool.
love my story.
That's so cool.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, and this is gonna be a large oversimplification and stereotype, but it seems like so many men are like, I'm not that good at that, but I'm gonna go tell everybody about it. And then a lot of women are like awesome at something. They're like, what do I have to share, right? Like it's this.
Even her.
Yeah, it's like
I've,
all the time.
I've seen it.
Well, maybe you can speak, Kathy, to the women that are listening to this. Like, how can they gain more confidence to know that they are worthy and deserving to share their story, and like that they're valuable and that they can change lives with their story? How do you encourage that?
It's why I'm doing masterminds for women now, because it just wasn't something that called me until recently. Yeah. Because I still am often the only woman on the stage. It's just bizarre to me. I would say that Rich has been an incredible partner to me in helping, not being threatened by me. I think that can happen a lot where women don't want their men to feel threatened, so they sometimes stay small. So you need to work together as a couple. He's a big enough man that he wants me to be great. Yeah. I can't say that for past relationships. So, making sure that you're on the same page, and that if that's the case, that there's enough counseling and therapy that there's space for you both to grow and be great. That's number one. Number two is, like I said, he's nurtured me in ways that women haven't been ever, because I was raised where it was almost, my family thought it was sinful for me to be working and outside the house. Like my role was to be home with the children and obey my husband. That's my background. So all of a sudden, life thrust me in this position where I needed to take the reins, and let him get better and take over the money. So it's like, okay, let's go. And he would I was afraid to even say my name at a dinner table party. Like, that's how shy I was, if you can believe that.
Yeah, not at all.
Right? And I would be like the person who's like shaking and nervous and sweaty hands and everything just to say, hi, I'm Kathy. And so he signed us up for Toastmasters. And that was terrifying, but each week, you say one line, and then you say a paragraph, and then you get up and you give a 1-minute speech. And each time it was scary, but with anything in life, if you just inch your way through it, you get better.
Yeah.
And again, that's been his coaching with me, is it's just, you don't have to be a great speaker overnight.
Yeah.
You just got to do a little bit every day. Just do a little bit every day. So pretty soon after a year of Toastmasters, I was speaking at the convention in front of, and I believe me, I thought I was going to faint and throw up and poop my pants and all that. I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. And I didn't. So that's just been kind of our theme, is like, just doesn't have to be leaps and bounds. That's always fun, but that's hard. Like, we leaped and bounded into real estate. I think by our first time we purchased, it was like 5 rental houses, and we're like, there's a lot to manage here. So it doesn't have to be that. It can just be step by step. So that's one. If you're afraid of doing anything, just find a coach or Toastmasters or something that allows you to practice in a safe way.
That's so good. And that's true for, every area of life. You can find some organization, group, coach, person, partner, whatever, that can help you through that. But how many people in life are just like, no, I don't do this because of this.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, let's just change this, and then you can do that. You can do that, right?
Yeah.
But majority of people just never even, never think that way.
And like him, he mentioned one day he wanted to play piano, so I bought him a little, was it like electronic piano keyboard thing for Christmas, and I just thought, just like a lot of gifts, it'll sit there, just collect dust. Instead, like every day for the past 10 years, he plays the piano for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have 10 minutes?
Yep.
Everyone has it, and he's a really good piano player now. I haven't touched the keyboard, so I can't play, but if I just did 10 minutes, I'd be a great player. And I want to. So maybe I will after this. But now we're doing Duolingo and learning language. Like, I'm like, I'm almost 60. What am I doing trying to learn a language? But if you do it like 10 minutes a day, you could do it.
Yeah.
One of the I call it core values maybe of like the Better Life Tribe that we launched. We talk about this thing called tortoise power. And there's like, turtle power, Ninja Turtles. But tortoise power is like tortoise in the hare. It's like, a little bit at a time. It's that same thought.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to drive, you don't need to drive the football, Hail Mary every single play. Like if to go to the football metaphor, if every play you just went 3 yards, right? Because for those who are not football people, like, every 10 yards, you basically start over. You have 4 more tries to get 10 yards. So if every play you just made it 3 yards, you do a 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, you get to start over. So all you ever have to do if a team could just get 3 yards every single time they go, they would be undefeated, perfect team. They would never lose. Yeah. It would just be constant scoring because you always get 3 yards. So people, I think, especially with real estate, we get this a lot, right? They see the social media, like a social media video. I've got 1,200 houses and 5 locations.
In 3 years.
Yeah, in 3 years. Yeah, it's just like, like I remember Scott. Do you remember Scott McGillivray? He had Income Property on HGTV. You ever see that show? It was a show on HGTV called Income Property, right?
Okay.
It was all about house hacking, really, the idea of turning your basement or attic into a rental unit. But I used to watch that show like 20 years ago, and every episode started with like Scott McGillivray, and I'm probably saying his name wrong, like has 100 houses and blah blah blah. And every time I was like, that is impossible. Like, that's such an overwhelming thing to have 100 or 100 units.
He's probably a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way. Yeah. But then I realized, like, if I was just, like, instead of getting overwhelmed by that, if people just started thinking, what's my 3-yard play? Like, what is my just drive the ball 3 yards? And it's probably as simple as pick up the phone and call a real estate agent. Like, listen to a podcast, go to a real estate meetup. They're all little things. In fact, I like to say all success is a series of 5-minute tasks. Like, all success is, no matter what it is, just like 5-minute things.
I love that.
And if you do them consistently, tortoise power, you get the results that you want.
Tortoise power.
Yeah, tortoise power. We're going to make t-shirts that are like, at least, I don't know. I want to. Maybe they think I'm crazy on my team. But I want, like, the Ninja Turtles, but with Satan tortoise power. Anyway. All right. Question for you. Is wealth learnable? Like, can people, is that something you're just born with, or can you learn?
Oh, yeah. I did not have a wealth mindset. You probably did.
I think I did, but, I'm not sure. Like, I started with like personal development tapes, that's, back in the day with cassettes and everything. So I think that helped because, I think I was absorbing it and learning it and seeing a different perspective, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't come from lack. My dad was a dentist, but he had 5 kids, and so there wasn't a lot left over, and I was the youngest of 5, so I always had the hand-me-downs, and I think I was coming from a scarcity mindset a lot, like fear-based, like I don't know if I'll have enough, and I came from a generation where my mother and most women didn't work, and they were sort of very reliant on their husband. Even if they were in an unhappy marriage, they just had to put up with it because they couldn't fend for themselves. And so anyway, I didn't have one, and it became very clear one day when a friend of ours came just out of the blue and completely lit up our house for Christmas. It probably cost him $500.
You came with a crew of guys.
They got ladders, they're lighting up our house, they drag a Christmas tree because we couldn't afford it. And lit up our house, Christmas tree and all. And he's like, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. He looks down and sees a fax machine on the floor that we were going to sell on Craigslist, and it said $50 on it, so we were going to sell it. And he goes, oh man, I need a fax machine. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's $50. He's like, literally, he's like, no thanks, walks out.
Yep.
And I just look at Rich, I'm like, oh, I think I have a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Oh, because an abundant mindset would just give.
Yep.
Would just give, especially under this condition,
Yeah.
But it just, a abundance mindset knows that there's enough and that you will get yours. I was the youngest of 5. I never got mine. The cereal was never there for me in the morning.
Right.
So I had to overcome this. And I remember it was so deep, and my fear of poverty. And remember, for women, this goes back centuries.
Yeah.
Of if you're too old or you're not good enough, you will get tossed out into the river. Like nobody needs you or wants you. So I had to overcome this old cellular stuff. And so I listened to a CD called Prosperity, and it was hypnosis to get, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, your subconscious is so powerful. And my subconscious still believes that I'd get thrown out. By the time I'm 30, I'll be too old. Whatever, I've got to take what I can because it won't be there for me.
Yeah.
There won't be enough for me. And I had to shift that. This went so deep in my subconscious, and I had to listen to it every day for 30 days to shift that, where there was enough, and I could imagine myself having enough, and imagine myself having so much I could give. And it worked. It shifted it.
And you read The Science of Getting Rich.
Science of Getting
right
Rich
after that.
was so good. I read a lot of those books to just shift the deeper self-conscious, because if you have a deep, deep belief that you won't have enough, or you can't have enough, or you'll be tossed out, that's going to drive everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to say media changes mindset. So like the more you can if you are lacking a abundance mindset, like how can you consume some media that'll help you? Like read the tapes, the CDs, and now today like the podcasts, the audio books or the physical books. Like that media, like the more you listen to that, it changes mindset. Yeah. When I wanted Heather to, I tell the story a lot, but I was like when I wanted Heather to get on board with real estate, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. We're gonna make all this money. It's gonna be it's a cool business. She's just like, yeah, it sounds like get rich quick. Like I don't want any of that self-help stuff, right?
Sure.
I just, give me my job. We'll make a good career and we'll retire when we're 70, right? Like that was kind of like the mentality she came from, and I was there. I just got a few months earlier, right? I discovered it. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm like, oh, that's like this book changed my mindset. So I wanted her to read it. And she just wouldn't, she's like, I don't read self-help books. Like, I don't want to do that. So I finally made the deal. I couldn't pay her to do it because we're both broke. But I said, okay, fine, I'll make you a trade. I'll read any book you want me to read if you read this one. Doesn't matter how long it is. You tell me a book, I'm going to read it. And she's like, any book? And I'm like, any book. She's like, fine. So she hands me like this 800-page Twilight. So I read all of Twilight, and then I read all of the ones in the series. And Team Jacob. But she read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and she gets done. She's like, oh, yeah, this is great. I get it. Like the media changed her mindset.
Yeah.
And so she got excited about it, and we've been on kind of the same page ever since. And so we also try to consume media. I did that when I wanted to eat more vegan. Like I'm not vegan, but I wanted to eat more vegan. So I was like, well, let's just watch some vegan documentaries. That'll make you vegan.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, because they're so, you can watch a documentary on veganism and one on eating only meat, and both of them have 100% science to back up.
Exactly.
And so you'll be convinced either way.
Yep.
So it's like, our brains are manipulatable. So like learn to manipulate them.
The way
the way that you want. In the right direction. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let them be manipulated by, random forces.
Yeah.
But manipulate them in the way you want to.
Or the forces that are trying to control you.
Yes,
which
yeah.
is the
Which is
media,
yeah.
will
Yeah.
put
We
you in
want
that
you this
scarcity
way.
place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. The media like designed to make you fearful and scared because then you're just going to listen to more of the media to try to figure out what comes next.
I know. And so
Yeah.
many people are looking for like just the how-to. You
Yep.
know, when you talk about wealth, you know, the wealth mindset
Yes.
thing or whatever it is, it's like, just tell me the facts of what I need to do, what I need to buy, like real estate, especially, you know,
Yeah.
it's just like, how do I get this many doors in this, instead of really looking at yourself. And I think that's where you really got to start. It's just like, how are you operating? What's going on in here? What's your mindset? Until you get that right, all the like having a cookbook is not going to do you anything good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, let's shift a little bit to the real estate and dig in. I might even make like a segment of the show eventually where it's going to be like, this is a how-to section, right? Like there's a lot of mindset, there's a lot of stories, but I want to eventually get to, you know, as long as I've got geniuses on real estate, how does somebody get into real estate? Let's go through kind of a step-by-step. Like there's a million ways to do it, but teaching people today that are listening, let's say they don't have any property, they know that real estate investing is something they want to do, or at least wealth is something they want to have, like monetary wealth. What do they do? Where do they start? How do they get there? I know it's a big question. So
I would say it's, you know, that's The Wise Investor. That's the reason I wrote it. It was
Yeah.
not to say, but get the book. I'm saying that it's the hero in the journey.
Yeah.
His name's Ryan. He's the one who's in that mindset of just like, this is the way it is. And he had no idea he'd even entertain real estate. So I think it's about educating yourself and committing to say, I'm going to take the next 6 months. I'm not going to try to buy anything. I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm going to take the 6 months to figure out what is it that I want to invest in and become an expert in that. Because if you'll jump all over the place. Just like, multifamily is the way, single family is the way, you know, self-storage is the way, you know, whatever it is. It's like, so you got to pick your lane. And I think taking 6 months to do that and get clear and just absorb everything you can, listen to podcasts, try to figure out what is it, what are you leaning toward? And once you choose that asset class, then really learn as much as you can and then find mentors and resources in that.
that's good.
And I would say just start small. Again, coming back to that theme, I've had people come up to me at conferences and say, I want to syndicate. And I'm like, great. How many deals have you done? None. Okay, you're not ready.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe other people would think that's okay. I don't think that's okay.
Yeah, no.
I mean, unless you are partnering with
Yeah,
someone
that's the way to hijack.
Yeah.
You partner with somebody who's already done it.
who, if you're just able to bring people together, that may be your gift, but make sure you've got a real estate expert. But, you know, sometimes the simplest thing of maybe doing what I did in the very beginning when I was a single mom, where I rented a house and I subleased 2 of the rooms.
Yep.
There you go. You've just learned how to sublease. And that fed
Absolutely.
me. It wasn't costing me. It was bringing money in. Then when we were going through the cancer scare, well, we rented out rooms in our house too. So we learned how to be landlords. Then just with our daughter, she wanted to buy a car right out of college. And we're like, if you buy a car, this is going to ruin your debt to income ratio. Just deal with your old car. It still works. Talk to a lender. Sometimes that's the best first step. Just find out what you can qualify for. Turns out, right out of college, she could qualify for a $300,000 house. And believe it or not, that exists in Chico, California. So she talked to the lender, found out she could actually qualify, and then started, and I'm like, now start shopping.
Yeah.
And she was able to find a house that she could improve herself for $250,000. It was a 3-bedroom instead of the 2-bedroom apartment she was living in. So she really upgraded her life. The payment was lower. She improved that. She did a lot of the work herself, improved it, sold it for $150,000 gain, was able to then come and live near us in the Los Angeles area and use that as a down payment. Now she's got another house. She's going to put an ADU on it.
Yeah.
So just taking that first step, again, you had mentioned earlier, talking to a mortgage broker, that's the first step so you know what you qualify for. If you don't qualify for anything, then some people will say you can use other people's money. I say maybe, but how about just make some money?
Yeah.
Like for me, when we were learning it, but we didn't have the extra money to invest, you just kind of look at your life and say, what am I good at? What could I make money at right now?
Yep.
And what I could make money at right then was I had this radio show, right? So why not make that better? really improve it, put energy in it, make it great, and then get sponsors.
Yeah.
Now I have some money, and I could use that money as down payments
Yep.
rather than, I mean, obviously you can JV with other people, but I'm just like, get a side gig.
Yeah.
You know, just find a way to make a little extra money, put that aside. That'll be your investing money. That's just my advice.
Yeah, and I have a few friends who have been waiting to get into real estate for years.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, what I say to them is just get that first investment property.
Yep.
Just one, to break the ice, because they're so afraid of that. So it's, get pre-qualified, buy that first investment property, even if it's like a $200,000 or $150,000 house. Then you get it, you learn about depreciation and taxes and keeping up with things and everything. Yeah. And then you can graduate and go, wherever you want, just like you started with single families, right?
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about there's a lot of ways to get there. There's this idea that, all roads lead to Rome. There's that like famous phrase, and it's like, because the Roman Empire, right, was all spread out, but every road, every major highway would eventually get to Rome, right? So the same thing is true with wealth. I see it. It's like all roads lead to wealth. However, if you get off the road and you're like, oh, well, that road over there looks better, and you go over there, and then you go on this road, like, oh, look at that one over there. There's like you can walk a million roads and never get to Rome.
That's a really
right?
good point.
So if you stay on the highway to wealth, you will get there. So I say this with people all the time, is they try to, I'm going to do real estate. And then they do it. They get on that road for a while. And then 6 months in, they're like, well, I'm not wealthy yet. So I guess I better go
crypto.
try. Yeah, crypto. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm going to go do
really
crypto.
well.
And then I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to go sell Tupperware. And it's this never ending thing. And so because of that, they're circling wealth, and they're not going toward wealth.
Following the journey.
Yeah, so just that idea. I love that you said what can you be an expert in? And that is so lacking in today's world. Like everyone wants, what's the lowest effort I can put in to be good at this? And you brought it up with improve yourself. Like do a good job on the radio show so you can get better sponsors. Nobody's thinking that. Like I feel like so many people are just like, what's the least effort I can put in so I can go and relax more
and make lots of money.
Yeah, and make a lot of money. Yeah, and it doesn't work that way, does it? Yeah, fascinating. All right. Well, let's move on to the next segment of the show. I don't have a great name yet for this. We're still working on it. But it's a series of 3 questions. The 3 questions that each have 3 parts to it. First one, and I'll ask each of you. So it's kind of actually, there's like 6 questions in each one, right? Because it's each of you get to answer the 3. What are 3 things? When I say things, it could be a habit, a belief, an action, a new routine, something. 3 things that you have changed in your life in the last 12 months. That has given you a better life. So what have you done differently in the last year? What have you implemented or done that's given you a better life?
Why don't you lead?
I'll lead. I know you know. We had a big fallout in our company last year, and I think a lot of it came from lack of transparency, even though that's one of our values, our core values, and also me trying to over-fix things, get over-involved in things that aren't mine to do. I've done that in personal relationships where I would jump in and try to help someone with something they didn't ask help for. So I think the big lesson last year was to just put my focus on the things I can control, and then trust other people to do the job that I've asked them to do, or whatever. If it's their life, let them live their life. It's not my life. Like, it's not my job to tell someone how to live their life or try to fix it for them. So this past year has been just focus on where I can improve, and trust our employees, trust Rich in his management of that, and just stay. I think it's just stay out of it. That's the best way I can say it. Just stay out of it and focus on the things that I can control.
I love it.
I would say focusing on, just to expand on this, you're focusing on your unique ability.
And my unique ability.
What she does best, that she loves doing, that she's amazing at. And when you put your focus on that and you kind of just let go of the other things.
Yeah. I was probably micromanaging and being controlling, and that was causing conflict between us because he is the CEO of the company, and I was breathing down his neck. So anyway, I trust you, baby.
That's good.
Thank you. So in that same vein, going through those challenging times, and we were co-CEOs at the time, and all this conflict, and it got really hard. It was the biggest strain on our marriage in 26 years. And what I had to learn from it was not I guess it just comes down to be curious.
Yeah.
Be curious. I was trying to come in and solve the problem, fix the problem, say this is the way you need to operate, this is what you need to do. And what I started to realize is, and really embrace, was just, I'm actually going to get a question mark tattoo on my wrist as as a reminder to be curious, and be curious about other people, but more than anything is be curious about her. What do you need? What's going on? Tell me more. Do I fully understand you? Because I was assuming that I understood her, you know, and I would just make this assumption, and then I would come up with the answer. And so, yeah, it's like being a husband 101, you know, but it took 26 years for me to learn it. Yeah. So that's the big one. Be curious is the biggest thing for me. And it's carried over into all areas of my life. More present.
All right. Cool. What else? Anything else you've done, given you a better life?
Definitely. A part of that for me was really committing to meditation.
Okay.
With an ADHD brain, it's like I would sit down and try to meditate, and I'd be all over the place, and I'm like, I can't do this. You know, it's just like I'll do it. I'll get my meditation when I hike or something like that. And then I just started to use the Calm app, and I just did the 10 minutes a day, and I committed to it, and now I'm on day like 460 or something like that. So I got on that streak, and I didn't want to break it. And just every morning, it's the first thing I do, 10 minutes, and it's really, now I can quiet my mind.
That's great.
It took me a while. It took me probably 3 or 4 months where I was like, oh, I'm starting to get this. And now I'm more present consistently. I don't get hooked as easily. And and it's like I'm much better at being able to, it's that, you know, that choice between the stimulus and response, that pause, you know, as Viktor Frankl said. It's like I'm so much better at pausing now and saying, how do I want to respond to this situation? So instead of before I'd get stimulated and I'd be like, I'd react. So, and that's what massage is. I mean, not massage, that too.
Massage is good too.
But meditation has been awesome.
That's great. Anything else you want to add?
Well, and then because of that, we've done marriage counseling before, but not pretty steadily. But starting last year, we're like, all right, we need improvement in our communication. It took 3 tries. The first counselor I loved because she seemed to be totally on my side. And then he's like, nope. And then we got another one that just was way too by the book. She wanted, you know, Kathy, you sound upset. Let's put you on some medication.
Oh, geez.
Nope, you're not the one.
Analyzing,
the psychotherapist or like psychologist, whatever, didn't work. And then we found a business or a relationship coach, which we just loved. Again, that coach was just curious and asked really good questions. And it's been great. Gave us great exercises to do. And
just on how we can communicate better. And he just would draw out from us, you know, is there anything that you want to say? How does that feel for you? Anything. So he just facilitated an hour-long conversation, and we just do it once a month. So we just meet with our relationship coach. It's just like working with a business coach, you know, asking great questions and drawing it out.
Because sometimes in a relationship, there's one person that's just afraid to say what they really think. And that's me. So, and he's afraid that I'm not telling him what I'm thinking because he's right. I'm not. And so the coach creates a safe place for me to do that. I don't know why I need that, but I do. And he'll just say, "Tell Rich what you're really thinking." Oh, okay.
And I'm ready for it. And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna react.
Yeah, you're in a
especially
space
with someone watching me.
It just, for whatever reason, there'll be a time when I probably don't need that, but even after 26 years, I still need that.
Yeah, you know, one, and maybe I'm stealing some thunder from when I interviewed them on the podcast, but Lewis Howes and his girlfriend Martha, good friends of mine, he's got a big podcast and she's a big movie star in Mexico, but when they got together, they told me that from day one, they said, every week, like as we're dating and whatever happens in the future, every week we will go to relationship counseling from day one.
Wow.
And he said, we've never had a fight because of that, because they preempted it. And they made this point that like,
that's amazing.
Right. Yeah. Like with business, we hire business coaches, even when things aren't failing and wrong.
Right.
We're just like, hey, we want to have
better.
We want to have better business. So let's hire a business coach.
Yeah.
But in marriage, it's like people only ever do it when there's a
When
problem.
it was too
Yeah,
late,
when it's too late.
probably.
Yeah. And they were like, why don't we just do it from day one? And they both agreed to it. And they have such a great relationship because every week they have a moment where they can work on their things together with
Yeah.
somebody who can help them.
Yeah.
And that impacted me. And I still have not yet done that with my wife and I, but we are going to. I keep saying that. I'm going to do it. I'm committing here.
Start with once a month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes that's the answer, right? Is just do something like, let's just put it out there, try it.
Yeah.
And it might not be the right person the first time.
It might not be, and
Yep,
that's okay.
and that's
There's
okay.
somebody out there.
Yeah. All right. Any more on that one? Anything else you've done? And you've been cold plunging.
Yeah, that was huge. I have a busy mind.
Yeah.
You know, I'm as I said, at 10 on the Colby on
Yep.
Quick Start. My mind is never ever not thinking of a new idea.
Yep.
And it's been hard to sleep and hard to I overwhelm my team and so anyway, Rich started the cold plunge. He's been really looking at it's easy for us because we don't heat our pool. It's freezing.
Yeah.
And so he just started doing it. The first time I went in, I went in and went out and I was like, that's
Yep.
it. But he
a
kept
lot of
saying, like,
Yeah.
I hate this. I don't
Yep.
like being cold. I like being comfortable. I like Hawaii.
Yeah.
Warm things. And but then he was kind of telling me the benefits, and one of them is memory. And I'm like I said, I'm going to be 60. I want to have a great memory. I want to have great energy. We just have our first grandkid. I expect many more. I want to have the energy to take them all weekend. I didn't really feel that way with my parents. I didn't know that they could handle our kids for more than an hour,
Yeah.
right? I want to be the parent that can.
Yes.
And so that was part of it. And then also just apparently you sleep better. So now I can go in 8, 9. Today I did like almost 10 minutes just swimming
Wow.
in the cold pool. Now I feel like I could go swimming in the ocean. And
Yeah.
California is pretty cold.
It's
The
cold,
ocean's
yeah.
cold, but I always want to swim in it, but I never do.
Yep.
So now I feel like, I could go and actually enjoy that. But so I think my sleep has been phenomenal.
Really?
And I think I've gone probably 20 years without great sleep.
Yeah.
So this morning I slept till 7:30, which I don't know. That
Wow.
to me, that's like fully sleeping in.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
usually
great.
up by 5. So whatever it is, that seems to help me to be able to overcome something you hate doing.
Yep.
But you know it's good for you. If you can do it in one thing, you can do it in another thing.
Yeah.
So I think the training of doing something so incredibly uncomfortable as being freezing
Yep.
for 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes is building this inner strength that will have me be able to take on things that normally I would just not want to do.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Then I would say the one other thing this past year that we did that has been a game changer for us for a better life is we are building this development up in Park City.
Oh, okay.
Single family homes and townhomes and building out this whole, we syndicated it. And there was one of the townhomes just looked amazing and we wanted to help fund the project and infuse some cash. So we bought one of the townhomes just thinking it'll be a cool short-term rental and we love to ski so we can go up there. But that's been a game changer family-wise. It's like my mom came out from upstate New York, and we all gathered as a whole family, and going skiing together, going tubing together, and all that. So I mean,
That's cool.
Yeah, so that kind of like that lifestyle investment, and then it's a short-term rental when we're
Yep.
not there. So it's kind of like having that short-term rental and this lifestyle investment or lifestyle asset has been really awesome over this last year. It's
love
added
it.
a lot to our life.
Yeah, it was just kind of an awareness of we have these, like I said, these little houses in Ohio that we're
Yeah.
never going to visit.
Yep.
And they, are they ever really, I don't know, it's just a different mentality to be like, well, what if we just put this into something we would use?
Yeah.
It's still going to not totally cash flow, but some. But most of our investments are for the long term anyway.
Yeah.
So why not have some properties that cash flow a little bit, but that we get to use and are in amazing places and create memories. So yeah, we're kind of like in the lifestyle investing.
Been a good one.
Kind of
Beautiful.
like with our main home, it's mostly paid for by 2 Airbnbs that we have on it.
That's
So
beautiful.
we get to kind of live our life of our dreams, but it's covered by
It helps a lot.
short-term rentals. Yeah.
That's great. I love it. All right, next question then for each of you. 3 books that have most impacted your life.
I think Rich mentioned earlier, Science of Getting Rich
Okay,
was
yep.
really a game changer for me.
That was a big one. I would say The Way of the Superior Man was a really good one. David Data.
Okay.
It's all about how to better understand your woman and be a superior man, meaning just grounded, loving, acknowledging, all that. So that was a big one for me. What else for you?
A second one for me. I can't think of the name of it. You go.
I mean, obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad was
Yeah.
great for both of us. You know, that was a game changer for mindset. Psychology of Money, actually, recently. That was really good. Morgan Housel.
Yeah.
That was a big influence on the Wise Investor book.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
reading through that first, and then, you know, it definitely wove some of that into the story. That was a great one.
That's great.
I mean, Think and Grow Rich, if we want to go back, that was one of the first books I read that, you know, before Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's written in 1937.
Yeah.
That was a big
that's
one.
an old one, yeah.
Atomic Habits was great. Our core values spell atomic.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So when I saw that book, it was like it just came out, and I'm like, Atomic Habits. Ooh, I like habits, and this is atomic, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like to see what that book's done, you know, as far as sales and everything. I'm so stoked for him.
Yeah, he's killing it. Like every time I look at like the top 10 book list of like Amazon, like all books, it's like Atomic Habits always like 1, 2, or 3.
It's just huge,
Just blowing
and a
up.
great book. But that's great because it's so in alignment. And back in '98, I wrote a book called Focus, and it was a guide to clarity and achievement, and it was so much about habits and, you know, little things that add up to make a big difference. So Atomic Habits, I was just nodding the whole time as I read it.
Yeah, when I wrote the Intention Journal for Bigger Pockets, it was a journal. A ton of the research over that whole year, I spent a long time researching like habits and actions and all that. And I really based a lot of the science and psychology of that book off of James Clear's blog, which he then spent, I mean, this is before Atomic Habits came out. He just would blog about habits and actions, and he had an amazing website. And he would go and look at all the data, and what his blog was eventually became Atomic Habits. So in a way, the Intention Journal, which then the Better Life Tribe has been, you know, pulled off of the, you know, the intent, that basically the Better Life Tribe is off the same methodology. So in a way, the Better Life Tribe is like a great grandson of Atomic Habits.
Nice,
so,
I get it. Yeah,
So
I love
it's
that.
very, very similar. In fact, when we talk about it, very similar. So
A really good parenting book is Love and Logic.
Okay, I haven't
Love and
heard that.
Logic. It's a Christian based.
Okay.
But it really helps with the disciplining of your kids in a really kind and
okay.
loving way.
that's good.
Yeah.
We're
because
dealing with meltdowns daily.
Everyone is,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the little exercises they have on
Yeah.
it changes everything.
I'm going to buy it today. That's great. All right. Final question of this kind of 3-part thing. Let's go with a leader question. I'm playing with different questions to ask here, but 3 leaders in history, could be present, could be past, that you admire and look up to, and why?
I mean, first one for me is Gandhi.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a huge influence in the sense of that, the understanding, the not fighting, the focus on peace, and the commitment at a soul level to walk the talk, basically. Yeah, no matter what happens, still walking the talk.
I'm going to say Abigail Adams. It's kind of random, but they are my ancestors.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And she was just to imagine what they went through at that time, where they fought so hard for freedom and to just be able to create their own world. And the strength that she had. A lot of people, of course, talk about her husband, but she held down the farm, literally held down the farm. And I just think back, like, what a strong, powerful woman to be supporting her husband and leading a whole new country while she was kind of leading the family and writing him every day and supporting him. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it.
I love her.
Yeah, that's great. Other leaders, I mean, so many come to mind, but it's like so many. It's funny. It's like they go.
Yeah, that's why I like this question, by the way, the 3 thing, because like one people can name one. People usually think of 1, but 3 requires like, oh, we got to think about this.
Yeah.
It's like, who would be my top 3? Yeah, that's why I throw that, because it's a harder question than 1.
Yeah, I mean, over the past couple of years, I've been really into Stoic philosophy and the Stoic approach. So, you know, it's hard to pick, one of them, you know, from Socrates to Heraclitus. So I'm gonna just the Stoic leaders.
Okay, you can summarize
and their
that. That's
approach, and just kind of taking personal responsibility for your life and being your best self. Yeah, that's huge.
Love it.
I'm going to say Kathy McGee, who is the founder of Operation Smile. And do you know what that is?
Yeah, isn't that the one that fixes the cleft palate?
Yeah, her husband is a doctor, and And she just was living this beautiful, wealthy life in the Los Angeles area and wasn't really feeling fulfilled. And we met her, we had dinner with her, and I can't remember the origin story, but she took this, I think they traveled and she saw the pain and suffering out there. But for her to come back and create an organization, she plugged into so many celebrities and just kept at it, and they're still at it, and they have changed the lives of so many kids. Because I don't know if you know, but if in certain countries, if you have a cleft palate, they think that you're satanic, satanic, and they'll just kill you, or that you're just tossed from society.
Yeah.
So they would go in and do these $100 surgeries and change this person's life.
Yep.
So Real Wealth has donated, and we've done, I don't know, we've helped with thousands of surgeries.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's so exciting. Krista, our daughter, actually went to Thailand on one of their missions and
That's
would
how we
hold the
learned of it,
babies.
yeah.
She was the one who discovered it. But she would hold the babies before and after surgery, and just a very much. She's just such a little Mother Teresa, which would be my third.
Okay.
Mother Teresa.
I love it.
So there's my three.
There you go. All right. You want to stick with your Stoic leaders for 2, or you want to got one more?
I think that I was going to say Viktor Frankl, but he's he's so influenced by the Stoics as well. Yeah. So it's more of that philosophy than just one person. It's just that
idea,
mindset, that approach. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, guys. Well, 2 more questions. One, what are you excited about in the future? What projects or things you're working on? What are you excited about?
I'm excited about building the mastermind side of our business.
Okay.
I think we're late to the table, but at the same time, I know that I have a lot of experience I'd love to share. And like I said, I want to plug into what I think is an untapped market, is this women's leadership. Really, for some reason, and I think the reason's sitting next to me, I've been able to excel as a leader in real estate. And I know it's because I had it's been a man's world in business for a long time. So I need, Rich was able to help me understand that man's world.
Yeah.
And I want to give that to other women. It's like, how do you brand yourself? How do you get out there? How do you get on stage? How do you get people to listen to you on a podcast? Like all of that stuff.
Yeah, and the reason I say that, I don't think you're anywhere close to the late to the party. First of all, at Bigger Pockets, when we launched the podcast, back, whatever, I was like, yeah, we're late to the party. We missed the podcast boat. It's, we're too late. And then it was like, we really were at the beginning of it. Right. But one thing that Alex, who's, director here of the podcast, we talk a lot about, and he talks a lot about, is as religion in America has, and I'm going to steal all your lines there, Alex. You're the real star of the show. Yes. So as religion has dropped away in America, largely organized religion, and as bowling has dropped away, and as all these community things have dropped away, humans are built for community in a large way. And so what we have postulated, theorized, is just this conversated about. Thank you. Is this resurgence of community things. And that's where the Better Life Tribe, I think that's one of the reasons we wanted to launch with 200 people, and we launched with 1,200 the first week or whatever, 1,100. It was because people are like, oh, that's a group of people I get to go and get together with. That's cool, that's new. And it's well, it's actually very old, but we just haven't had that in America for a while. And so I think this idea of masterminds is just beginning. I think we're going to see a lot more tribalism in a good way.
Interesting.
Yeah, in America, as we need to bond, and especially in the more digital world, we need to bond in real life with people. So I think the wave is just building up. So.
I love it. Thank you.
All right. Last question from me. Where would you best like people who want to learn more about you? Where should they go?
Probably just realwealth.com.
Realwealth.com.
Realwealth.com. Pretty simple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our website. That's how we serve people. Social media is just Rich Fettke, Kathy Fettke, but realwealth.com is the best.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you guys. You're amazing. I love you both. You're awesome. Thanks.
Love you too. Thank you so much.
Bye. All right. Here we go. Fist bumping.
Woo!
Boom.